For the better part of 20 years, I begged heaven for one thing, and heaven never once answered me. And at 69, I finally understand why that silence was not what I feared it was. Before we begin, if these honest words are a comfort to you, subscribe to the channel. That way, we can keep walking this road together. If you have ever carried a prayer that heaven never seemed to answer, then you already know exactly the ache I mean. I am sitting at my kitchen window this morning. It is one of those ordinary gray mornings, the kind where the light comes in soft and slow, and the coffee in my hands has already gone cool because I forgot to drink it. That happens to me more than I would like to admit. I sit and I look out at the bare garden and I think, and this morning I am thinking about the fear so many of us carry quietly. The fear that maybe God stopped listening somewhere along the way, that maybe an unanswered prayer means we did something wrong, that we asked badly or believed too little, or were somehow passed over. I know that fear. I carried it for a very long time. So let me tell you plainly what I prayed for. It was not complicated. After everything I had lost, I wanted a home of my own again, a place that was truly mine. And I wanted a person to grow old beside, someone at the other end of the table, someone to hear the door open and call out my name. That was the whole of it, a home and a hand to hold in the evenings. I prayed for it every single night. There is a worn place on the arm of my old chair, a frayed patch in the wood, right where my hands would fold. That is where I knelt, night after night, year after year. In that same dim room, on that same spot. My knees knew the floor there better than anywhere else in the house. And every year, when my birthday came, I would sit in front of that small plain cake with its single candle, and I would close my eyes, and I would wish the very same wish I had wished the year before. The same one, a home, a person. I blew that candle out on the same hope so many times I lost count, and nothing came. Another year would turn, and there was still no house that was mine, still no one at the other end of the table, just me, and the cooling coffee and the quiet. It is a slow kind of heartbreak that, not loud, not dramatic, just the soft closing of another door over and over, in a silence that would not break. Maybe you have a worn place on a chair of your own, a spot where you have knelt and asked and waited too. And so that is the question I carried into my 60s, not why God took what I lost, but what on earth you are supposed to do when you have prayed the same prayer for 20 years and the silence still will not break. What do you do when the silence will not break? I will tell you what I did. I got angry. After 20 years of the same prayer and the same quiet in return, there came a night I decided I was finished asking altogether. I remember it plainly. I was making tea I did not even want, and something in me just gave way. I told God, right out loud in my empty kitchen, that I was done kneeling, done hoping, done being the woman who prayed the same small prayer into the dark and got nothing back. And I set the kettle down harder than I meant to. It made a sound too loud for that quiet little room. And I stood there with my hands shaking, half expecting the sky to answer. It did not. Of course it did not. That was the worst of it, honestly. The silence nearly undid me at 65. That was the loneliest stretch of my whole life. The house too quiet, the bed too wide, the evenings that went on and on with no one to tell about my day. I stopped kneeling at that worn place on the arm of my chair, the spot I had pressed smooth over the years. I could not bring myself to go there anymore. It felt like talking to a wall. And here is the thing I did not see at the time. I had been measuring his love by one thing only, by whether he gave me my way. Every night I did the same quiet arithmetic. I asked. He did not answer. So the love must not be there. That was the trap. I kept doing the sum, and I kept coming up empty. And I never once thought to question the arithmetic itself. Let me pause here for a moment. Tell me in the comments, What is the prayer you are still carrying? The one that still feels unanswered. I would like to sit with it beside you. And if you would like to keep sitting together like this, subscribe and stay a while, now. Something began to shift in me, and it did not come the way I expected. There was no thunderclap, no sudden answer to the big prayer. It started small, almost by accident. The way you notice a thing that has been in the room the whole time. I noticed the neighbor who left a covered bowl of soup on my front step. More mornings than I ever thanked her for. I noticed my friend, the one who called every Thursday for 11 years. 11 years. Rain or shine, grief or ordinary. That telephone would ring, and I was not so alone after all. And I noticed the morning light, the way it fell across the folded quilt at the end of my bed, warm and slow, and steadied me before I had even risen. These were not the answer I had asked for, but they were something. They had always been something. And that was when the question turned itself around on me at the window one morning, coffee going cold in my hands. What if the answer to my prayer was never, ever going to look like the house and the person I kept asking for? What if it looked like something quieter, something I had been walking past for years? What if the answer was never going to look like the house and the person I kept asking for? Once that question got inside me, I could not unsee it. And at 69, it finally opened all the way. I stopped waiting for the big thing. I don't even know the exact morning it happened. I only know that one gray day at the window, with my coffee going cool in my hands the way it always does, I looked up and I started seeing what had been sitting right in front of me the whole time. The answer had been there for years. I had just been looking past it because it did not have the shape I ordered. I wanted a grand house. The one I lost. What I have is this small cottage, and I will tell you something I never thought I would say out loud. This small cottage has more room in it for me than the old house ever had. Fewer things, and all of them loved. A lamp in the corner, a quilt folded over the arm of the chair, space to breathe, and to be exactly who I am now. I wanted a person to grow old beside. What I got was quieter than that, and I almost missed it. The neighbor who left soup on my step and never made a thing of it. The friend who has called every Thursday for 11 years, rain or shine, and asks how I really am. A life held together, morning by ordinary morning, by small kindnesses, and a faith that just kept carrying me. Not the answer I demanded. The answer I was given. A psalm reminds us we are held even in the dark. I used to read that and want to believe it. Now I don't have to try. I have lived it. Held. On the nights the silence was loudest. Held. When I had nothing left to pray but the sitting still. And I went back to that worn place on the arm of my chair. You remember the spot where I knelt all those years and begged? I kneel there still. But not to bargain anymore. I kneel there in peace now. Not asking for the thing, just being there. In the quiet, grateful. Now I want to be careful with you, because you matter too much for me to hand you something false. I am making you no promise that if you just believe hard enough, you will finally get the thing you long for. That is not how any of this worked for me, and I will not sell it to you. The house never came. The person never came. What changed was smaller, and I think far kinder. I stopped measuring his love by whether he gave me my way, and peace came in through the crack that left. So let me ask you softly, which of these quiet answers has been waiting on your own doorstep, and you simply have not called it an answer yet? Sit with that a moment. The prayer you carry was never ignored. Maybe like mine, it was answered all along, quieter and gentler than you kept demanding. The peace came at 69, not because I finally won, but because I finally stopped keeping score. So hear me from this window, on this ordinary morning. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. If the prayer you hold still aches tonight, and some of them do, Hold it gently. Don't carry it alone. Reach for the people who love you, your friends, your church, the ones who would sit with you. Sometimes the answer we were given is quieter and kinder than the one we kept asking for, and there is real comfort waiting in that.